2, 3.
'Cause I'ma dig deep, I'ma stand tall. I got the grit of the underdog. I'm stronger than you think. I can do this on my own. There's a difference between loneliness and doing this alone.
This is DC Music Rocks podcast presented by Capital Groove Collective, elevating the sound, voices, and music of the DMV to the world stage, one conversation at a time. My name is Jarreau Williams. I'm your host for today, and I am very excited to introduce this group that I have with me today. This group is considered one of Washington, D.C.'s hardest hitting rock bands. This 4-piece showcases original material ranging from the slow, down tune to a fast pace, kick in the teeth. That sounds like my kind of energy right there. And you can compare them to Soundgarden or Queens of the Stone Age. And their most recent album, EP, actually won 3 Wammie Awards last year for hard rock album, hard rock artist, and hard rock song, The Hill You Die On. So, ladies and gentlemen of the podcast, it is my pleasure to introduce Dog Prowl. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing great. Thanks, Jarreau.
Yeah, all right. So, Josh, I've been mainly speaking with you before we hopped on here. So why don't you just go ahead and give an introduction to who the band members are, and then we can kick it off from there.
Sure. I mean, we have a mixed bag here tonight, but I'm Josh. I sing and play guitar. And Enzo, if you want to introduce yourself.
I play drums. And this is Enzo. Yes.
That's Enzo. And not included on this call are Seth, the bass player, and Robert, the guitar player. But we also have with us Avik Ray from the Crossover TV to discuss the project we're currently working on. So
awesome. Well, welcome.
And I'd just like to say I love almost being introduced as a band member. I finally got
I messed that up. My bad.
No. Just kidding.
Band member / groupie / all of the above.
/ all of those things.
Well, Avik, it's great to have you on, man, especially because of the work you've been doing with Crossover TV. I know you and I have spoken a few times in the past as well. And I just want to get started, as I always do with every show, or even if this may be the first one on the first episode of the year, we'll see in a second. But I like to start with an icebreaker because I may know some things about each of you, or as we're learning just now, but there may be some people out there in the DMV and worldwide who don't really know who Dog Prowl is. So I like to start with a little icebreaker. So we're going to do something that's called favorites. All right. So I'm just going to ask you like a subject of what your favorite thing is, just a way to kind of break the ice a little bit. All right. So We'll make this one really easy. Just something simple, All right. So Josh, I'm going to start with you. Favorite ice cream?
We just talked about this today, actually. Mint chocolate chip, for sure.
Woo, okay. All right. We can just go ahead to everybody. Enzo, I'll go to you.
Actually, it's my go-to mint chocolate chip.
Avik, what about you, man?
Oh, it moves around. I mean, I'm of Indian descent, so I don't know if you've ever tried something called a pistachio kulfi when you've been to an Indian restaurant. That for me is Indian ice cream. That's basically the bomb for me. So if you're talking absolute favorite, that's where I'm at.
So we must have all had ice cream on the brain today, apparently. So
always.
Right, all the time, especially now with 2020 and everything else. We've been in the house for a while. All right, so favorite sports team. Enzo, I'm gonna start with you on this one. Favorite sports team?
None.
None? What?
No, it doesn't exist.
Oh man! Wait, so
I'll make it easy.
You don't have a soccer team you root for or anything?
No.
A driver in Formula One? Nothing.
Sitting there in a Ferrari shirt. You've got to take a Ferrari driver.
It's true. Like Kimi Räikkönen was somebody that I followed a lot.
All right, man. Cool.
Thank you.
See, you just never know what kind of answers you're going to get here. So, Avik, let me go to you, man. Favorite sports team?
Oh, I'm a diehard Wizards fan. That's those are my guys. Through thick and thin, mainly thin. I'm a Wizards fan. So.
DC sports in general is thin.
1978
until recently, but
yeah.
John,
around 2018.
In Arsenal, right?
And Arsenal, yeah. So Arsenal from England, that's my soccer team. Again, something that I just can't talk about at all. I can barely even say the name this year. It hurts so bad. But anyway, here we are, just suffering in sports. That's basically what I do.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I mean, until recently, to answer the question, I'm a DC sports fan through and through. At this point, it's Nats, Caps, and the Washington football team, and then the Wizards below that. But yeah, I mean,
that's for a change. The Wizards are at the bottom. It's like,
well, I mean, I haven't been a real big fan of the NBA recently, but
no, I'm
yeah.
just kidding.
I was poking Avik yesterday. I was like, are you a Man City fan? He was like, never.
No, man.
And
not Man City.
or Leicester City or anything, anyhow.
Just to clarify, by recently, I mean since like Jordan retired. I'm just not. I don't mean like as a result of current political things. I support the NBA with. So we'll go with that.
Just to clarify, everybody, he meant the third time Jordan retired.
Right. That's right. That's right.
When you say Jordan retired, for all of us,
yeah, I have to be more specific.
All right. Is it the number 45?
See, this is what we live for right here. All right, so to bring it back to kind of why we're all here today. Favorite musician, Avik, I'll start with you.
Oh, that's difficult. It depends on which stage of life. I'll go with a John Frusciante.
Okay, all right.
So I think that's probably my groove right there. If I was picking all-time favorite, but it depends on genre. But I think that's where I'd be at.
All right. Well, you, Enzo, I know you have to have a favorite musician. It can't be for two on this.
I have multiple, and it's like George Michael. Love George Michael.
Wow.
Yeah. Gotta have faith.
Yeah.
All right, Josh. Take it home.
Same. I have a bunch of favorites, but if I don't answer it the way Enzo expects me to, I know he'll get mad at me. So, my favorite band of all time is Nirvana, and so I guess the biggest influence as far as songwriting and all that would have to be Kurt Cobain.
All right, man, that's solid. Well, hey, that wraps up this little intro, and hey, it was a fun one. We definitely learned some new things about Black Dog Prowl and our special guest Avik here. So. Josh, tell me a little bit more about how this formation came to be. Like, how did you guys meet? When was when did you all decide, like, hey, we're gonna do this and we're gonna make this a thing?
So I guess Black Dog Prowl has been around since 2009, 2010. Doing our thing, various lineups. Enzo and I were kind of like the founding members. We've gone through a couple guitar players and a couple bass players, but we're really like this lineup we have right now is perfection, I think. So we're sticking with this one. But yeah, I mean, Enzo and I played in a band prior to Black Dog Prowl that kind of dissolved, and then we started this one and have been making a lot of noise ever since and enjoying it the whole time. So
it's more like evolved into this one.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some overlapping members.
Yeah, you never stop singing.
That's true.
So for you guys specifically, when was the decision made for you in your life that music was it? Like, was it a talent show? Was it, seeing your favorite artists live, or, what was that moment for you that you knew, like, hey, this is me. This is what I want to do?
For me, I mean, I used to steal my dad's cassette tapes and listen to the Beatles and the Doors and the Kinks and all that stuff growing up, and would just sing along. My dad would get mad at me and my sisters. We accidentally recorded over one of those, if you remember those old Fisher Price microphones, just like, he'd be playing a tape at a party and then it would cut out and it would be us singing along to the song that's supposed to be playing. So that type of stuff. But like, I picked up the guitar a couple times and tried it, and it didn't stick until maybe about 7th grade. And then I started learning how to play Nirvana songs, and I played a song at like a talent show in middle school and had a great time. And ever since then, that's kind of been the plan, I guess.
A talent show?
Yeah.
I didn't do a talent show. Did you go to Montgomery County's Got Talent or something?
Yeah.
Is that what it was? No, I don't know. I think I remember, all I remember is this. So growing up with music around me, none of my parents are musicians or anything like that, but they always had music in the background. But I would say it was when I got, for Christmas, I got the Queen's Greatest Hits, right around, of course, Wayne's World, when, it was introduced, to the new masses. And so I got that on tape, and I just got so hooked. So I had no instruments, so of course I wanted to sing like Freddie Mercury. Never happened. And and then somebody made the mistake to bring a drum set. I was trying with a guitar, never worked either. And then somebody brought a drum set to school, and that was it for me. I was like, oh, it just made sense. And it took from there.
That's an awesome thing when, like you said, it makes sense. It's like nothing else feels right. Like you just find that thing, and you latch on to it no matter what. So that's pretty cool. I always love hearing those type of stories. So thank you guys for sharing that. And I specifically want to swing it to the DMV. That's one of the main reasons why we're on this podcast and we're talking about this. Especially because, with Avik being here too, with the project that you guys are working on, just seeing how the DMV has brought all of these creatives together. For you guys specifically, what is it about this area that is so special for you?
You want to go first, Enzo, or you want me to take that?
Yeah, you've been in town way longer than me.
Well, I have, but the thing is, so my family is a Foreign Service family. So I grew up, I was born in the area, but traveled until I was 18. I literally spent half my life out of the country and half my life into the country, in the DC area. But that there's sort of a transience there, but I think what makes the DC areas particularly so great is just its diversity in experience, in people, in musical tastes, and it all kind of blends into this sound that you can't quite explain because it's got so many different backgrounds. And so it's not just rock and roll, or it's not just punk, or it's not just hip hop or any of that. It's a blend of everything that I think makes it a scene that is different than anywhere else in the country.
Yeah, definitely. Enzo, do you want to add to
that? It is a melting pot. I moved to the area 20 years ago, and usually you think melting pots are New York City or anywhere else, but I was actually blown away at the fact that in this area you can really curse in any language and somebody will turn around and call you out on it. So I always thought it was absolutely fantastic to get to even meet or listen to music from like firsthand from countries that I was only used to seeing on the map only, like absolutely abstract. And then you get to meet people that are like, let's say, Sri Lanka. It was absolutely fantastic. So it gives that it thing to the city, but also I think what makes it pretty unique is that the bands have a tendency to work hard and to really try, because DC is not known for being a music hub compared to other cities. So I think there's a bit more pride, there's a bit more effort, and a good sense of but humble sense of hustle, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Avik, I want to ask you that same question, because obviously I know you're here for other purposes, but I definitely want to have you be involved in this. What is it about the DMV for you as well?
It's interesting. I'm a relative tourist here. I am a tourist here. I'm a sort of like a transient kind of guy. I've lived in a lot of different places around the world, much like these guys have as well. But I've never lived anywhere like this. I've never lived in a place like DC where I've instantly come to a place and I've felt at home, and I've met people who I vibe with on the same kind of level, and the conversations that I have with people and the interests and just approach to life and just that attitude of getting out and being open to try things or meet new people or try out new ideas. I've never been in a place like that. I mean, I lived in New York, I've lived in London, I've lived in Bogota, Switzerland. I've lived in a number of different places, but I've never had this kind of interaction with people where I've just gone, okay, there's so many people who have that kind of characteristic of just, let's just try it. Let's just try it. Let's just try something creative. Let's do something together. And there's also this feeling of helping each other out as well, which I find also is very unique compared to other places I've lived. I find people are always willing to help you. We started this crossover project, for example. People didn't know who I was at all. I've just some dude who's just turned up and say, hey, listen, I'm trying to start this YouTube channel. Would you like to try something out? And the answer is, yeah, of course. Let's try it. Let's do it. And I'm very grateful for all of those interactions that I've had with musicians here and everyone else. In fact, just outside of the music community as well, that made us feel so at home and open to letting us try out new ideas and seeing where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Since you already mentioned it, let's just go ahead and talk about it. Obviously that you guys are here for a specific reason. Let's go ahead and talk about this project that you guys are working on. I think that's a perfect segue into it. So, Josh, I'll swing it to you because, I've seen, some and heard some of the music that you guys have put out, and it's incredible, man. I mean, the video I saw on you guys' website, if you haven't gone to their website for Black Dog Prowl, definitely check it out. They've got their music video right there on the front page, and it definitely kicks you in the face like they were talking about. But talk about this new project that you guys are working on.
Yeah, so I definitely want to throw it to Enzo in a minute because it was his brainchild, but we basically had this idea, or Enzo came up with it initially. We were talking about doing a live performance of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and we wanted to basically make ourselves sort of the house band and then bring up as many of our friends and other musicians as we could get involved and curate the show, and it would be a great time. And then the pandemic hit, so live music ceased to exist, and we kind of put it on the back burner. And I'd been in touch with Avik, and we collaborated on some of these, or I participated in a couple of these lockdown sessions for Crossover TV, which was a great time. And Enzo saw these participations, these performances, and came to me and said, do you think Avik would be interested in basically taking the Sgt. Pepper project and modeling it after these lockdown sessions and putting it out that way? And I said, that's a lot of work that he would be undertaking, but that sounds like a great time, so I'll pitch it to him. Enzo, I don't know, you would take it from there?
Yeah, it was a very soft conversation, very soft start. And then we're like, hey, Avik, do you want to have a call? We have a question for you, project, to see if you're interested. And then after we pitched it to him, of course, he had, like the same laughter we're having right now. And I was like, ha! But then he said, I'll be totally down to do it. And, yeah. But after we hung up the phone, again, our first reaction is like, what did we just sign on to? Because we were we were going into this call thinking, he'll say no, maybe he'll say no, and then it'll get canned, and let's just enjoy the year, in pandemic lockdown mode. But it turned out to be on the positive end of things. So Avik, take it from here.
Yeah, no, I mean, the guys have pretty much summed up how it started, and then they came to me with this idea. I was like, yeah, the first thing was, wow, that's a lot of work. And the first thing was the timeline. Enzo had a timeline of Halloween to get this out. I think we started talking in July. I was like, man, that's a lot of work to get done in this sort of time, because each of these episodes, and obviously this format was born out of the pandemic, because previously we were recording people live, bringing two bands together and having them perform. And then this lockdown sessions type idea with everyone recording remotely their own audio and their video, and then us mixing everything together in the middle, sort of spun out of the pandemic. And actually, I really like that format. I don't like the pandemic at all, but I like that format that's come out of it, because it's allowed us to do things that we weren't able to do before. to have collaborations that we weren't able to make happen before. So we're able to bring lots of different people together, from different bands, from different parts of the world, from different time zones and all this sort of stuff, and have people perform as if they're doing this song together, and collectively we're creating something unique, which is I guess something that is, I'm trying to find the right word for it, that reflects these times, I guess, in terms of what's happening. And when the guys came with this idea, I was like, well, great. I mean, when we look back at this time and say, well, what did you do during that time? Go, well, you know what we did? I love making films. These guys love making music. And we came up with this project. I think this would be a great thing to look back on and say that we did this during the pandemic. And I'm really glad that they chose us as a platform to do this. And just every time they come up with, bring me the songs and the videos, I'm just always excited to edit them and put them together. So it's been a lot of fun to work on this.
Yeah, this is collaboration at its best right here. This is one of those prime examples of how we can take a very negative situation and really turn it into something positive. And with that, I want to just ask you guys an additional question, because Avik, you brought up some very great points about how just creativity can stem from this and what you've been able to do, from the pandemic. So just, what's a silver lining, I guess, that you guys have kind of picked up on, or something that you've learned to value because of what 2020 was, that you can now sort of carry into the new year and what you do with your projects? Feel free, anybody, to come in. I know it was a lot to ask, but yeah.
But you want to start with that?
Yeah, sure. So what I mean, trying to sort of play it back and summarize it, what have we learned from a creative perspective from 2020 of what's possible? I think it just shows that, and I always do this with filmmaking. I do that as well. What are the parameters that I have to work with? Because usually I'm working with corporate clients or whatever, and there's always these restrictions that you have. Okay, it has to be this length. You have to say these things or whatever. Everything's about the parameters that you have, and I just feel that once you've defined what your boundaries are, you can be. That's where creativity happens. It's like, what can I do within this? It's a bit like MacGyver, right? You throw MacGyver into a shed with a load of stuff, and some of your younger listeners aren't even going to know who that is. But it's that kind of idea. It's like, what can we come up with in here and get us out of this situation or do something cool with? And that's what we've done. We've MacGyvered this whole situation in terms of this format. And for me, I think that's the thing you learn, is that whatever the restrictions or boundaries are that are put on you, if you genuinely believe in something, if you genuinely love doing something, you will find a way to do it. And I think that for me is when I see all these musicians, and for the guys who are doing this full time and that's their living, I mean, you're just like, oh my goodness, the whole thing just shut down. It's like, what do you do? And I was really encouraged at the start when I saw people going onto Facebook and doing sort of streaming concerts and putting up a tipping system. In fact, that was one of the first things that happened. I just said, with Rich and Chris, who are not here, who are on the project, there was the first thing we did was like, okay, how do we take this thing online, and how do we make sure musicians can still get paid in all of this? And we had this idea of a tip jar and a streaming concert and all that sort of thing, and it kind of evolved in you just saw it happen naturally in terms of people streaming and putting up send your money on Venmo, what have you. But kind of a long answer to your question, but I think that the thing is that if you really love doing something, you will find a way, regardless of what the restrictions are that are put on you.
Absolutely. Josh, you want to go ahead and chime in?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is sort of a coming together, and like Avik said, is we've kind of found this project in a backward way in a lot of ways, in terms of not just this project, but all kinds of creativity. In terms of, like, I've upgraded my home recording setup. Like, that's a little bit of a silver lining. I've learned a little bit more about audio engineering type stuff and what can be done independently without necessarily going to the studio or just making different sounds out of different instruments, all that type of stuff. But I mean, big picture, in terms of like the pandemic, I think this is sort of like a dry run, I guess, for the entire world to address a dry run for basically the consequences of climate change, right? So like we're going to see all these changes that are going to be forced upon us that we're going to have to come to terms with in some way, shape, or form. And I think from a musician's standpoint, to see this shift and to be able to kind of come together and find a creative outlet, and obviously this is a much smaller scale than dealing with climate change, but like being able to create something with people that, like with Avik, with the lockdown sessions, I was able to work with people I'd never worked with before in this project. We've made contact with musicians that we maybe wouldn't have played shows with because the styles of music aren't necessarily perfectly compatible, and that's kind of like a weird thing with booking shows in DC. Like they all kind of end up being sort of genre specific, but we try to get out of it. But that whole thing. But I think particularly this project, like everyone we've brought in has brought something incredible to the table, and we've gotten to work with people that we might not have been able to work with previously. And hopefully we maintain these relationships, and not just what comes out of this project, but in future projects. Now that we've built these relationships, we can look forward to awesome collaborations. So
I think in addition to that is the factor of us doing this album. It also relates a little bit of, it's always easier to look at kind of like the negative side of things, like, oh, we're in lockdown, I can't go out, I want to go see live shows, and all these can't do attitude kind of thing. And then we're working on this album, and then you begin to not just, we play it now, so we're not on the listening end of the spectrum anymore, we're more on the playing end of the spectrum. And then you realize, like, okay, how is it that this band, the Beatles in this case, they worked on this album in like 1966, 1967, which was supposedly their least productive year. And I mean, for their standard, the least productive year. And they put out that album with the technology of the time, and how limited everything was. So working on it with the technology that we have nowadays, it was a challenge to, take these songs and play them, and for other bands to flip them on their head, and they still make great product out of it. So it kind of gave, at least to me, gave me like a good sense. I was like, you know what? Perhaps it doesn't suck that bad.
Yeah, man. This is all great, guys. So remind everybody on the podcast when this project is coming out, and where can we find it?
We're targeting January 28th, and it'll be on the Crossover TV YouTube channel, where it's premiered. Yep.
Yeah, we're looking at it'll be the album, the whole album of Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band, from top to bottom. It'll be following the same concept as the record, as if you were listening to the record without skipping songs, and that's what's going to be a solid 40+ minute video.
And that's what one of the things I thought was really interesting when the guys came to us with this idea. I was just, oh wow! And Enzo goes, no, I want to do it as a single video. I was like, a single video? What, you mean like the whole album? I was like, oh yeah, cool. And the thing I liked about it was, we kind of talked about it in other sessions and things, but it's just, it brings back that whole concept of vinyl in terms of when you listen to an album, you listen to it from start to finish, and there's no skipping tracks. You can lift up the needle and move it along, but it requires an action for you to do that. But the idea is that you listen to the whole thing all together. And I really like that concept of bringing back that type of idea of, you don't just pick and choose your sort of bite-sized pieces or select a playlist. You listen to the album, and I really like that approach to doing it. It's something new. We've not done that before, so I was quite excited to try that out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you guys so much for being on DC Music Rocks podcast. I mean, I greatly appreciate just hearing all these stories of DMV artists that are doing all these great works, whether it's when things are normal or when, we've been faced with these insane challenges like 2020 was. So just in closing, for Black Dog Prowl, please let us know where we can find you, where, and what's coming down the pike.
You can find us on blackdogprowl.com, all the standard social media sites, facebook.com. It's always /Black Dog Prowl. Instagram is probably a good way to get a hold of us if you're not into the email thing. But yeah, YouTube, and then of course the Crossover TV YouTube channel is where this project will be premiering. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, on behalf of Josh, Enzo, and the other members of Black Dog Prowl, for Avik Ray with Crossover TV, my name is Jarreau Williams. I've been your host for DC Music Rocks, presented by Capital Groove Collective, which is elevating the sound of the DMV one conversation at a time. Black Dog Prowl, Avik, thank you guys so much for just being a part. Keep rocking on, keep doing your thing, and just keep bringing more and more awareness to the DMV community. We really appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jarreau.
Thanks,
Really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks so much. And we will see y'all on the next podcast, or hear you on the next
Sounds
podcast.
good.
Whatever we want to say. All those wonderful things. All right. Take care.
We'll be there.
Cause I'ma dig deep, I'ma stand tall. I got the grit of the underdog.